Hello, Internet. It is on Malik Aaron, and welcome back to my Winter 2020 box office predictions. And today, we're going to be talking about the latest horror movie trash fire known as The Turning. And the reason why I say trash fire is because, I just found out some hilarious information about, the movie's the audience reaction to the movie. And I'm not going to spoil it right now. I'm going to go into more detail when we get to the cons. But man, oh man, you will not be disappointed because it's amazing. But anywho, we're going to go over the pros and cons for The Turning. Actually, scratch that. We're just going to go over the cons. There are no pros. Like, I've tried to think of some pros, but there's nothing. I was completely blank. This movie has nothing going for it at all. I know someone, will be like, but Malik, this movie stars Finn Wolfhard. He's in Stranger Things. He was in It Chapter 1. That has to count for something. And this is where con number one comes in. Look, I know Stranger Things is incredibly popular. It's probably one of the most popular shows of the past decade. Everybody knows about it at this point. But here's the thing. Just because you're popular on a TV show does not mean you're going to be popular in the movies. Right? And just last year, two, Stranger Things, cast members, Millie Bobby Brown and David Harbour, were both in movies. David Harbour was in Hellboy. Millie Bobby Brown was in Godzilla King of the Monsters. Both movies were duds to box office wise. Well, really, Hellboy more than Godzilla, but neither were winners. So, if those movies weren't successful, what makes you think this is going to be successful with Finn Wolfhard? And besides, the first It, most of these, child actors, like, they weren't the draws. You know what was the draw? Pennywise and the Stephen King brand name. Those were the draws for It Chapter 1. So, yeah. Just spitting truth. And also, the actual main star of the movie is Mackenzie Davis, I think. Let me check. Is it? Yeah. And she was just in the mega bomb known as Terminator Dark Fate, which was one of the biggest flops of last year. So her presence isn't going to help this movie either. So yeah, first con, there's no star power, no drawing power. So there's that. Con number two. Keep in mind, we were only a mere few weeks into 2020, and we've already had, count them, 3 horror movies in this year alone, and the month isn't even over yet. There's actually still one more horror movie after this, believe it or not. That's Gretel and Hansel, which I have to cover next week. But still, we've had pretty much a horror movie every weekend, with the exception of Martin Luther King Jr. weekend. Like, that's too much. Like, people like to complain, oh, the superhero genre is oversaturated. No, the horror genre is really oversaturated because we've had too many in a short amount of time, and it's driving me insane. And it doesn't help that the first 2 horror movies that came out earlier this year were both failures. The Grudge 2020 started off the year on a very bad note. Got an F cinema score. It to my knowledge, it only made like 20 million domestic, which is atrocious for, for a movie that's based off a well-known brand known as The Grudge. And then Underwater was just, forget about it. It only made like 14, 15-ish million dollars. That movie was a disaster. So horror movies have not been doing well. We're like 0 and 2, and there's a high chance. Actually, there's a guaranteed chance it's going to be 0 and 3 by the end of the weekend. So, yeah. Con number 2. There are too many horror movies in the market. It's just ridiculous. It also doesn't help that there hasn't been a successful horror movie in a while. I think the last successful horror movie was, what? Countdown, and nobody even remembers that movie. Like ever since Countdown, it's just been bomb after bomb after bomb. You know, Doctor Sleep bombed, Black Christmas bombed, Grudge bombed, Underwater bombed, and this is gonna bomb too. Con number 3. Oh wait, what's that con? I've lost count. Con number 3. The reviews are terrible. They're in the teens, which is actually quite standard for January, which is very sad. But yeah, I mean, January is notorious for a lot of things, and bad horror movies is one of them. Like, you are guaranteed to see a bad horror movie, at least one bad horror movie every single January, but usually they come out at the beginning of the month, not near the end. So, yeah, the fact we're gonna have like two awful horror movies in January is not good. Because at least Underwater, I mean, that's not nowhere near as bad as The Grudge or The Turning, but even then, that movie's only seen as mediocre. So, ugh. Alright. Con number 4. The audience reaction. Now, when it comes to like critics and audiences, usually there's some type of discrepancy. Critics can love something but audiences hate it, or audiences love something that critics hate. It's kind of rare these days when both critics and audiences are on the same page, but here they're definitely on the same page, because not only does this movie has terrible reviews, it has truly atrocious audience reactions. Because I mentioned The Grudge, it got an F Cinema Score, and getting an F Cinema Score is extremely rare. Like, only 20 movies have been able to get the F Cinema Score. Well, just found out, The Turning is is number 21 when it comes to that list. Because yes, The Turning now officially has an F Cinema Score. That is the lowest of the low. That is the fact that we've had two F Cinema Score movies in the same month, both from the same genre. That has to be some type of record, I'm betting, because yeah, like, it's rare enough to get an F Cinema Score. Like, the last F Cinema Score way before this was Mother back in 2017. The fact that we've gotten two in 1 month is simply incredible, and it shows how terrible these movies really are. In fact, and the fact that these movies really never should have been made at all. So, yeah. So that F Cinema Score, like, word of mouth is going to be toxic. It's going to turn toxic real quick. So, yeah, this movie is pretty much doomed at this point. It also doesn't help with some other minor cons. It's January. January's still a dump month, and this fits right in. And also, from the production process of this movie, I found it quite interesting. Because originally, Steven Spielberg was attached to this. Because apparently he wanted to be involved with horror again. Because he hasn't been involved in a horror movie since, to my knowledge, the original Poltergeist. So, it started out with him. And then eventually, like, the movie was supposed to be first called Haunted. And then that was pretty much scrapped. And then it was renamed The Turning with another dude. And so Steven Spielberg left. So, yeah, that's a huge problem. And, forgot to mention. Now, I haven't seen the movie. I don't ever plan on seeing the movie. And I bet none of you are going to see the movie after this video. But apparently, the ending for this movie is just, like, some say the worst. Like, the absolute worst. Some say this movie doesn't even have an ending. Like, how? Like, how do you screw up that bad in the writing process? Like, everyone knows when it comes to writing a story, you need a beginning, a middle, and an end. If you're missing one of those, then, like, goodbye. Like, what is this? Like, this is not a story. Like, a story needs to be complete. Like, it's, like, the fact that a movie, really any movie, the fact that apparently this movie doesn't even have an ending, or at least a coherent ending, is just, like, whoever wrote this movie should never write again. Like, I know that sounds harsh, but seriously, like, don't ever write anything again. So, okay, now opening weekend. Originally, I thought it would make like 10 million, but judging by what's been going on recently, that's no longer the case. So it's probably gonna make under 6 million. I'm betting like 6 million or under. I'll end up with like 12 million overall, like 12 to 15 million. It's gonna be horribly front loaded, and no one will remember this movie until they put it on their worst of the year list, along with The Grudge. So, yeah, that's The Turning. Yeah, God, the Sonic movie can't come soon enough. So, let's see, what's after this? Oh yeah, Gretel and Hansel. Can't wait to talk about that. And then the rhythm section. I barely heard of this movie at all. And then it's the end of January, everybody. That's it. That's January. Ugh. Yeah. Yeah. Ugh. January was kind of rough, with the exception of Bad Boys and 1917. Everything else was just terrible. And then February is gonna come around. You have Birds of Prey, Sonic. Things are gonna get a bit more interesting, but still, it's gonna be kind of weak. But things really won't start. The ball really won't start rolling until we get to March and April, and then summer. That's when things are gonna start. You know, getting what's the best thing to say? Things start getting hot, for lack of a better term. So yeah, that's it. That's all. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, leave a comment. You want to go check out some other predictions I've made. I have my winter 2020 predictions on the homepage. I got my holiday 2019 playlist. I got my box office recap playlist. And I know I'm going to have to start thinking about doing my January 2020 recap. Trust me, that video is not going to be positive, because with the exception of Bad Boys in 1917, what is there to be positive about? So, yeah, that's it. That's all. I am out.